Hey, welcome back for episode 2 of Small Town Loud Music. We are going to continue with Mortheo, and this song is called Security.
The first show that we did with the Preservatives, that was a show, wasn't it, Brian? That was a crazy one. Good show, really, all in all. Good party, everything else. It was interesting with the equipment acting up. Even the Preservatives, their equipment acted up. I do believe that was Chris Doss's amplifier, and I still remember about that long, well, maybe a little shorter, not that long, coming off from your lip, Brian, to the microphone, lightning bolt. It shocked the crap out of you. We all saw you get angry about it. It made for a great song, but dang. So, and actually, if I'm going to talk about favorite memories, that's like, for me, this one's like the start. So it's one that always sticks in my mind. This is a favorite memory for me, is playing that one. Other ones are actually the times that we got to play with Never Better. That was, to me, that was like the ultimate, is we stuffed two bands together and did an ultimate piece.
Yeah, I absolutely remember that first show, and I definitely remember the voltage that went through me. It was actually Aaron Pruner's amp that we were using instead of a PA, because none of us could afford a PA at the time. And yeah, what we had brought just crapped out on us. I don't know if it was hooked up wrong, or I can't remember exactly what went wrong with it, but they were nice enough to let us borrow that. And yeah, it did shock the shit out of me a few times. I had to try to keep back away from the mic, and sometimes it wasn't enough. But yeah, the screaming parts were probably a little extra, and it definitely, with it being our first show, like, it took some of the nerves away, because I wasn't thinking about people watching me nearly as much as I was thinking about not getting electrocuted by a fucking microphone. Just a heads up, there is a section of video that did not take for X. We're gonna, hopefully I can pull some movie magic and put some cool pictures and shit in there, but just be aware that if something happens and you're just hearing audio, that's why. But the audio is really good, so I didn't want to take it out.
So I remember one of my favorite things about Security, I remember, was the lyrics, to be honest. I really liked the idea of the song, saying, like, my destiny is false hope, but I sure love the security. Like, isn't that what the lyrics were? Yeah, and I always thought that was really, really solid, because it's, like, another cool, like, balance. Before our first show, I remember feeling really nervous. Like, I knew it was buddies of ours that had invited us, even though most of the people that were there, I guess, didn't kind of like us as much as I might have remembered. But I remember thinking, God, I hope they don't throw shit at us or boo us. First show I've ever played in my life, and kind of nerve-wracking. But we had practiced so much that even though I was nervous, at the same time I was like, let's do this, and I remember thinking we were going to play this differently than when we practiced, and then I remember listening it back and thinking, Jesus, we sped up a lot. Adrenaline, you're just really stoked about it. But yeah, I was on cloud 9 when we finally got a chance to finish. And we're done. Nobody threw anything. Nobody yelled at us. And I just played my first show. Hell yeah. This is what I want to do. Yeah. The fact that Mortheo did as much as we did on our own made me feel really proud, and gave me a lot of drive to do that for later bands in my life, even in more professional capacities. It was like we busted our asses. You drew the Mortheo logo. I had the Mortheo symbol and did all the artwork ourselves, all the pictures ourselves, all the lyrics ourselves, that whole entire book. Went and found people to print who hated us. And Tavita did the clown. Yeah, may he rest in peace. And there was just, even though we did it with such small resources and recorded with Sandy, who didn't know what the hell to do with us, I felt like it was up there with everything else. I remember putting it like on the side, like next to the other CDs that I had, and just seeing Mortheo ugly and feeling like, I cannot believe this. Now it's just a matter of time till we're rock stars. Obviously that didn't happen, but I thought it would happen back then.
Yeah, and listening to you talk about that first show, I do remember, like, we kind of got invited. They knew that we were a hard rock band, and it was just a private party for Halloween. So I think, Halloween kind of saved us a little bit, because, yeah, they were people that we knew, and they were cool folks, but they weren't people that we'd, like, hung out with regularly. So, yeah, we weren't walking into just a room full of our buddies necessarily, and I think that's probably a good thing for us long term, that it wasn't just like people there to pat us on our back whether we were good or not. It was folks that we just kind of knew as acquaintances. I do remember that by the end of that night I had a new girlfriend. That was kind of frosting on the cake there. It was a really good night for us. And that's me saying that after I got electrocuted by a microphone.
I joked for a while. I don't even joke. I actually think I meant it for a while, for early part of my 20s. Kind of saying that, like, everybody talked about how bad your first band was. And it's like, well, my band had the Sunshine song. Well, it was funny, though, even in those times, it's the only thing I could bring up.
Yeah.
That's something negative. And then I end up getting about mid-20s, started looking back, started actually putting Ugly on my MP3 players or my collection and listening to it. I'm like, I fucking loved this, actually. Yeah. I still felt proud. I remember the first time I heard Change, I'm like, I get that feeling again, where it's like, yeah, I'm ready to do this again. And it felt good.
Well, also keep in mind that we did that when we were 15.
That's the other thing. That's the other thing.
15-year-olds working with... That's another thing that I discussed with Chris. I had a long conversation with Chris Doss.
I would love to have a long conversation with Chris Doss.
But with what we had to work with in that time. So we're 15 years old. We're starting out. We have the equipment that our parents can afford to get us. Mm-hmm. Our parents aren't rich. No. Nobody in the band. We're recording with a guy that does country and like
gospel.
Oldies. Yeah, gospel. Our option to produce our CDs is somebody who makes Bible pamphlets or something, all things, set against us, and with those scraps we put together that album.
Exactly.
You have to take that into account.
Oh, no, I absolutely do. And that was one of the reasons why I ended up becoming so proud of it. And also at the same time, talking with someone, because you got to remember, Mortheo's number one. At this point in time right now, I'm in 38 bands in my life I've been in. I've been involved in some, or not necessarily bands, but also like acts or like anything that I've played music with. Right. And so there's been multiple times where I've been in a band and we've done like, let's go listen to what we first were in, and I played Mortheo and thinking exactly that I'm going to get like, oh God, what the fuck? And it's like, this is your first project? Really? This is pretty good. Let me show you mine. And then it'd be like, oh God. I'm like, yeah, you're right. Perspective like a motherfucker, which has been my shirt, basically, that I feel like coming up with, because I've said it so many different times. Perspective is a motherfucker. Yeah. And it's like, that was a big deal. Like,
and that's going to be another recurring theme in this that you probably will get sick of being beat over the head with, but it really is just making do with what equipment we had and playing where we could. I think Mortheo probably did start the ball rolling for local music in a kind of direction that Myrtle Creek wasn't necessarily happy to see and is probably glad to be rid of these days.
I ended up becoming more proud of it because I had that frame of reference.
Yeah.
And that's why when you were like, here's what I'm thinking about doing, I'm like, fuck yeah, let's do it. That sounds like a great idea. I always thought Ugly needed more attention, but I guess, like, you had mentioned that there are some songs lyrically that you did not want to do just because you were not into them lyrically anymore. Which ones would those be?
I honestly can't remember. I just know that, like, when I was choosing which songs for Mortheo, I went through them and I was like, this makes me cringe a little bit. Like, definitely could have been done better here. Like, but then there's others that I'm just like, I don't know how 15-year-old me is still relevant to damn near 40-year-old me. Like,
that's a good question. That's a damn good question.
And honestly, I feel like there's a lot of lessons that 40-year-old me can learn from 15-year-old me.
I agree, especially considering that 15-year-old you didn't think you'd get to 30-year-old you.
Yeah,
so
there is that.
I remember that. I remember not even just like a joke conversation, like serious conversations about you like, no, I'm done at 27.
Yeah, 25 actually. I figured that would be that.
And yet, lo and behold.
Yeah. I put in a stipulation of the contract later that I could make it to 40 if I had a record deal, and Bart kind of cheated that one in. Because I got signed on to Bart's label, Audio Mirage.
So now you're screwed. Now you just got to keep going.
I got another 3 years, less than 3 years.
No, you said until 40, unless
40.
Unless I get a
No,
record.
no, I was extended to 40.
Oh, the record deals would extended it to 40.
Yeah.
God, okay. All right.
So I'll be out of here any minute.
Well, here's the thing, though. We get this Mortheo album part 2. That means you'll be under Rocktavio Productions, which means you're on the label again. So, I keep pushing.
Yeah, but there's no new number.
That's true. That's the stipulation. No new number.
There's no
Just
new
keep
number.
going.
I'm going for fucking ever.
You know, he did an album at 132 years old, and he still has those fucking necklaces.
Yup.
That's awesome.
That's the thing that I think about now too, though, is like, so when we started up, it was usually the older people for the most. Like there were people our age that would see that and be like, "Whoa!" But it was mostly older generation. And now we've got a younger generation that's adults under us, and they have the same reaction as that older generation.
Yeah, it's really, really hilarious, actually. I did notice that, and they would probably be like, wow, that's so hateful and angry. Like, you're 13. Shut up and go get some perspective.
At this point, I'm just like, I guess I'll just make everyone nervous.
Well, except for the right people, which were the people who were Mortheo fans.
Yeah.
And those are the people who,
well, that's another thing about being polarizing is you set up kind of a filter, and you save yourself a lot of problems by just being unapologetically yourself.
Yep. Well, that was one of the things that helped me to become unapologetically myself as well.
See, it ain't just me; it's a hard word.
Yeah, yes. Well, no, that was kind of like one of my favorite parts about Mortheo is we had this mentality of like, look, you might not like what you see, you might love what you see, but you're going to see it.
And it's going to be honest.
Yes, and it's going to be real. And like every single part of it, you're going to hear it. You're going to hear it. You might not like it. You're going to hear it, and it's going to be not contrived.
Yeah.
Not cookie cutter created. Like you can argue some of the bands that we even played with kind of felt like a little bit. Like I loved Exit 103, and I loved those guys. But part of it was like you guys are playing music so you can party afterwards.
Yeah.
Like you aren't playing music because you fucking need to.
Right.
Except for Taylor. Taylor and Dave.
I was going to say, all of them, really. I mean, there's nothing wrong.
Fergoso was not. Come on.
That guy was playing because he needed it, but that was a different kind of...
different kind of need. A different kind of need.
I need to be the center of attention.
Yeah, that kid.
Which... But, like, no, those guys, I mean... If that's your thing and you just honestly just have fun playing the songs that you hear on the radio, sure.
Yeah.
Tresky especially, like...
Yeah, I love that guy.
he's still doing it.
Yeah, he's such
Right.
nice people. Yeah.
And that's just what he wants to do.
Mhm.
And fucking, as far as I'm concerned, Simple Man is written by Dave Tresky. Like, I like his version better than the actual. I do want to put another warning in here that, as I mentioned in the previous episode, I got a interview with Widget, who has passed away now. And he's probably going to be popping up quite a bit in this series, so just be aware and don't be caught off guard that you probably will be seeing him. Would you say that quote-unquote normal people disliked Mortheo?
Well, yeah, they had that newspaper and stuff like that. The Myrtle Creek newspaper when you were able to play down there at the park, and they took a picture of old people going through, got their ears all plugged up and stuff like this, all looking over saying good thing or bad thing or something like that. I think public probably got shook a little bit.
Of course, a song or a band is going to be disturbing to you. A high school band, no offense, is going to be disturbing to you if you've never been disturbed. But that's not the band's fault. So I guess, yes, technically I could see that. But not for any real fucking reason. You know, like, someone does something different than what we do. Yeah, to them that's disturbing. I can't say yes, honestly. Or I can't say yes and actually give a shit. Fuck them. Sure, they might have thought it was disturbing, but it's not accurate. You know, I'm sorry. That's just stupid. I can see what you're saying, if that's a real question.
Yeah.
But no, they're stupid. Yes, they could have, but not. It doesn't matter. Fuck them. That's stupid.
They did it to both of us.
They did it to both of us, but I remember you had said that. Because didn't Mortheo play first and then Never Better played?
It was Mortheo,
Yeah.
and then a violin playing
Violin girl who won. Yep.
And then Never Better.
Yeah. And I remember because you had said that, you were like, is that... Sorry, I'm very Twitter-pated. No, just the idea of, like, you had said that, like, these people did that. And I'm like, what? And then, like, okay, I'm going to watch, and those same people just doing it's like,
Yeah.
that was the mentality that you were talking about. It's like, if it doesn't make me stoked, then it's got to be shitty.
Right. And that's...
Oh, it's so...
I remember Bart got up there for the Never Better set and straight up called him out on it.
Yeah.
And he was like, if you plugged your ears for Mortheo, you better go ahead and plug your ears again, because it's going to be just as bad.
Yeah.
And I remember in that Mortheo set, somebody had a seizure during the set. Chris Doss tried to blame it on us.
Probably was our fault, yeah. Man, that guy too, Chris Doss, he was like one of the nicest people. One of the more supportive people all the time.
Yeah.
And I really, really love that about that guy. I never met anybody who's like, Chris Doss, fuck that guy. You know, it was always like, yeah, he's the nicest guy. Like,
No, the Preservatives were always good with us, and like, I definitely remember, like, it wasn't the same thing for sure.
No, very
definitely
different.
wasn't the same thing.
Very
but
different.
like, we both bands appreciated each other.
Yeah.
Like, we're like, no, this is like real legit music.
Yeah, it's like Silverchair playing with Lagwagon.
Yeah.
Like, these don't necessarily fit together, but they're really cool with each other. So
Old Silverchair.
Old
to clarify.
Silverchair. Not Neon Ballroom. We're talking about Frog Stomp.
Neon Ballroom still had some good ones, but you get
Yeah, but-
better than that Diorama.
Yeah, Diorama. Oh, God. No, we're talking about strictly Freak Show and Frog Stomp. That's it. There's other albums besides that? I swear to God there is. No, there is not.
Great song, not as good as the Sunshine song, but we don't go there. Yeah, I just remember being like, this isn't, my girlfriend left, this is gonna, it wasn't just like just a bunch of sloppy words behind beer. It was actually, hey, this is real, this is what I'm feeling. And that is a thing, like with your guys' group, that like I love the most. Again, not to like, beat a dead horse, but it wasn't just to do something, right? It wasn't just to play music. It wasn't just to, make a 8-song, record and then sell it for $10 a pop to make money to get to your next place. No, it was genuinely almost like a lament, if you will. It was actually like a guttural kind of, like this is emotion in its most physical, like voice, physical and real way, if that makes sense. Which really pushed a lot of people away from you guys, which they didn't like, because if you're forced to feel something you're not ready to feel, your initial response as a human is like, that's wrong. It's like, let's get away from that. But for me, like as a musician, everything, like I genuinely, man, I appreciated the stuff you guys were doing. It was really aggressive. Oh, really aggressive. Like we played like popcorn music. You guys were like, let's go out to the field, plant some corn, and then harvest it, and then determine what the corn was to see if it's poppable or not.
I do remember getting some local hostility. I think we've talked about it before. I don't think we got it as much in Myrtle Creek itself as we did in like Roseburg and Winston, but definitely Myrtle Creek too. Like it's like you said, it was just hitting a level of uncomfortability, and that was part of the point of it. I think it was just kind of reminding people who maybe just never thought about it that yeah, the people that you step on every day do have feelings, and this is what happens, and we're part of that minority that's willing to speak up and let you know how we feel about it, and not necessarily calmly or politely, and there wasn't anybody who was going to shut us up. There were, places who wouldn't let us play, people who really, really tried to discourage us, and I think if anything, it just made us that much meaner and that much more determined. So yeah, I think that's accurate.
There were several instances in which Mortheo was excluded from being allowed to perform publicly. Why do you think that might be? Because you guys were fucking heavy, man. The local geriatrics didn't want to blow out their hearing aids.
There were several instances in which Mortheo was excluded from being allowed to perform publicly. Why do you think that might have been?
Because of a bunch of fucking old-ass Republican white dudes and probably religious people. And I stand by that.
I think that there was definitely people that enjoyed it, and then there was people that didn't understand it. But I think that could be said about so much music.
I think Myrtle Creek's such a small town, and Brian's style and then the style of Mortheo, I think they weren't really sure how to react to it. But like I said before, our generation, all the parents that I know at that time were very supportive of all of us. So I think everyone opened up to all of our different styles and music styles, and supported what our passions were and what we wanted to do. And I thought that was amazing. Awesome.
That's another thing that I do wonder about with my perception of how people reacted to Mortheo in Myrtle Creek, because I felt like there was a lot of backlash, and the other guys that were with me felt that, but some of that I think is probably just me assuming. I always kind of assumed that people wouldn't like me because I am so different. And, you know, history up until that point had shown, yes, that is the case. They don't like you. They're not going to like you. So I just went in with the assumption a lot of times, I think. And while, you know, a lot of times it may have been correct, I think I also just overly believed that that was the case when a lot of people probably weren't bothered at all.
In general, I would say Brian had a vibe that was on the other end of the pendulum for our community. And I feel like there's actually a lot of different pendulums along that side. And not pendulums like, I mean, I just feel like there's a lot to fall on this pendulum, I guess I should say. That there's like this far side of like the country, hillbilly aspect of where we live. And then there was like, I feel like a punkier side over here. And then there was a lot in between. And I feel like a lot of people fell over towards the countryside of things in our area. And you were in the far end on the other side. And to be honest, it was probably why I noticed you, because I didn't fall into, at least I don't feel like I did. I imagine if you talk to people we went to high school with, they probably would put me in this other side over here. Because I feel like I didn't let people get to know me super well. But that's a whole nother story and not relevant. That there were people who could dress punky or alternatively and dye their hair purple or blue or do the spiked hair or just something that might be in that day and age classified as an alternative. But I feel like it was a little different because I feel like it also shined through with your personality, because it didn't seem like there were people who definitely dressed the part to try to blend in with that group, because it depended on what group people wanted to go to. And then there's people who I feel like were more authentic. And if I'm being honest, I feel like authentically, I think that you belonged further over on this side.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about, and absolutely, like, I can say that I didn't necessarily get along with all the kids who were trying to represent, I don't know, goth or punk or whatever you would want to call it. And the people that I played music with through the years, it was more about being honest and really being able to represent your ideals. And that's why, you know, those instances where it's like, oh yeah, we could make it about ego and be like, well, that's not what somebody who plays punk rock does. That's not what somebody who's a heavy metalhead does. And we were like, fuck that. No, we're not isolating people just because they're different. Like, we were never gonna be a part of something that was like, oh, I'm going to be different to be the same as the other different people. You know, it was just, yeah, I remember coming across that falseness and kind of calling it out, and as a result being kind of ostracized from people that visually you would think I would fit in with.
Do you think the general population of Myrtle Creek was comfortable with Mortheo? Shit, I mean, I don't see why not. I mean, I really don't think that many judged your guys' band based on your look and sound. I didn't judge. I mean, I thoroughly enjoyed it, you know.
My favorite thing is, even though you had your get up, Aaron would sometimes have his get up, And I mean, I didn't have face paint, but I had my own get up. I mean, look at those pictures. The only person who really didn't have a get up was Mike. and
Mike tried it a couple of times. He was like, you know what? It ain't me. And we were like, no, that's cool. You do your own thing.
Yeah, my get up is this Coors Light in my hand.
Sometimes.
But it was, even though all of that was the case, we all knew that it was all about the music. Yeah. That's what we wanted to push for. We wanted to make sure that was the driving force, which provided for a lot of really awesome energy, both like in the writing process and in the live performance process.
Yeah.
You know, even our guerrilla shows we play at Millsite.
I was listening to Security, and I gotta say, I vaguely remember that song. I definitely remember it, but I don't remember it as much as You'll Never Know. That being said, I do remember it because when I heard it, I was like, this is very, it's kind of Nirvana-esque type influence, I could tell. And not a bad thing, obviously. Nirvana's a great band. And Security, great song.
Security, I remember being a pretty good song. Don't have a lot of memories on that one. Not like You'll Never Know, anyway. But I definitely feel like Mortheo made kids like us feel more accepted, like there's more of a home for us. With all the other bands that were around. I mean, there was some punk bands, there was THC, but not everybody can be like those guys, and Mortheo really stepped outside the box, especially in a small town, and it feel like it was easier for at least me to come out and start writing my own music and jamming with some people that were around in a small town, because I was able to connect with those guys better. The Myrtle Creek music scene was actually, I think, really big for how small that town was. I mean, there's a bunch of bands just from that tiny little area, and then coming up to Roseburg and Winston, there's all kinds of bands just in this tiny little area. And I feel like a lot of that stuff has kind of drifted by the wayside anymore, which is really sad.
Yeah, and I'm not really sure where that fell down. Like, I know a lot of people our age are going to be, busy and kind of tied down with things. And maybe it's just that I'm not aware of things because I'm not out and about, or, I really should be looking into local shows a little more. But I don't know how much there really is to look for. And I certainly don't see anybody advertising where to go, at least not for like hard rock, heavy metal in my little small town that I'm in now. But as far as like kids doing it these days, I don't know if there's just a lack of interest or if they just don't think that they can, and maybe that's something that was kind of unique to Myrtle Creek and spread out to other areas. But I mean, maybe they just lacked the examples that me and others have talked about earlier of, people who kind of paved the way to let you know that, no, you can pick up an instrument and you can form a band and you can make some meaningful music if you just really try. And maybe that's it. Maybe just people don't want to put in the effort now, or maybe it's all just done electronically now and people don't bother to get out there and really play it. But and there is some reward in doing some electronic stuff. Like, I've been doing some stuff that's like a little more electronic oriented, a little more digital, but it's not the same experience. I mean, I would strongly advise people, young people, if you want to perform and you want to do live music, really do it. Like, and don't be afraid to not be great at it right away. I think that's another thing too that's just culturally, like, if you make a mistake the first time you try something, then that's a wrap. Like, it's just like people think that if you're not good at something right away, that you just don't have a talent for it and that you should quit immediately. And I can guarantee you every single person who has played in a band that has weighed in on this can tell you that no, it did not just start out perfect and polished. Like, I can really only speak for Mortheo. Well, not just for Mortheo. Trust me, I saw some of you motherfuckers in the early days, and you, like Mortheo, and I'm just gonna lean heavily on Mortheo, you were not ready to perform live right out the gate. And even our first shows, I've talked to plenty of people about their first shows and their first bands, and it doesn't start stage worthy, but you need stage experience. So you kind of just have to stumble through, you know, doing a shitty job until you're doing a good job. And that's true of anything. And I think as far as kids doing it, as far as parents encouraging their kids to do it, that's some skills that you can use in every aspect of your life. Just learning not to quit at the first sign of trouble.
Do you think Mortheo made local teens feel safer about not being normal? So, in general, I would say yes. I don't know if your whole band did, though, to be honest with you, which that could be mean of me to say. Not mean, but I feel like you were the leader of that band, although I think Toby had quite a hand in it as well. But I don't know Toby as well as I know you.
Like I said, I never really paid attention too much about the songs, the names of them. It was just a good time to actually just have a place to go, listen to music.
I think, you didn't ask me this, but every recording I've listened to thus far, no matter how much shit I've given it, is good. Good fucking music. It is good music. Good lyrics. Good beats, and not just beats, because like that's a generic term, but I remember being at some of these concerts and, you know, quote unquote concerts, but that shit was fucking sick. And I mean, it just sucks that none of you guys had the actual opportunity to get into a real recording studio where people were really giving a shit.
Personally, this is one that in my head I sing to in the background all the time. I wish I had had the vocals at the time to be able to back Brian up on some of these.
Yeah, you always had a good way of matching like catchy lyrics in the chorus, but also keeping them with a dark vibe at the same time. They were like upbeat with a dark vibe, kind of. That was grunge in an essence back in the day, you know. I think Cobain started that theme and we all kind of took from it, you know.
Yeah, and I would say definitely in all my music, at least like any of the music that I'm doing vocals in, like there's some of it that's just about me, but there's also some of it that's me trying to speak up for people who don't have the means to speak up for themselves. And that started in Mortheo, and I hope that people felt that.
It was always hard to tell how Jesse felt because he was so stoic and quiet and had that like somebody fuck with me, look. You know, somebody starts some shit. which was you know, that's just Jesse. I know that he's probably had to mellow down a little bit like the rest of us have. Probably not a lot, but enough to where it's like but I mean he was always there too.
Yeah.
He was, the Nichols clan.
Yeah.
You know, Dallin and Talon were always showing up too and rocking out, and it's so funny because you see the two of them like doing like the Bash Bros thing in the quote unquote pit, but then you see Jesse like
Well, and they were so much younger too.
Yeah, they were. They weren't there. I think they were still in middle school.
Yeah, I was talking to Dalen about that, and he was just like, "Yeah, I mean, we just got to go to things that older kids got to go to
because
we had older brothers."
Yep.
Like,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But like,
I think they were at the first fucking show we played.
They might have been. I can't remember if they were at that party or not. I don't think they were at that one, but I think they were at any of the ones after that, probably.
I can't believe my brother found that. The video of the very first time I ever played a show ever.
Yeah.
I don't know if you had played a show before then at all, but
no.
No, so that was both of our first shows.
Yeah.
That was Aaron's first show too.
Yeah.
And I think we just did a 3-piece at that time, did we? Or no, Josh was in the band.
Yeah. Josh was supposed to be there and he didn't show.
Right.
And that's how Aaron ended up being on bass.
And we still rocked it up.
Yeah.
I feel pretty proud about that.
I played bass because I tried out for guitar, and we had some issues going on where our bass player at the first gig that I was with didn't show up. And we called him and tried to track him down. Brian went over there, talked to him, kind of just went away. So, played bass for the band, love playing the bass. You know, any instrument for me after a while kind of gets tedious. So switching back and forth between the bass and the guitar and doing some leads on things kind of helped me to keep a little more attention in things. I enjoyed playing rhythm guitar quite a bit. I wish I would have played some opposite parts and expanded what I did a little bit more, but I was young. You know, so I enjoyed both aspects, playing the guitar and the bass for the band, actually. But I would say, actually, I can't really say which was more fun. Guitar's always been a fun one for me, and bass, I love that rhythm. I like to get those. I was known for doing walking bass parts.
My first concert when I was a kid was Mortheo, and it was off the fucking chain. I loved it with every ounce of my soul. Back in high school, Brian was called Zer0, and I was guitar child, and it was about the music. It was always about the music.
When did I first hear about them? Let's see. I might have been, gosh, maybe because Brian was my sister's friend, or I think they were in the same grade. My sister was 18 months older than me, so she was, the grade above me. So I believe, off the top of my head, I was introduced to like a lot of these people via like my sister or whatever, or of course like similar interests as well too. But they were in the, my sister knew some of these people, knew Brian, and I think they were on fairly good terms. I think I could be wrong though, because my sister does not like a lot of people.
She did a very good job of tolerating me. I could say that. I liked her. I thought she was cool, but I think I got on her fucking nerves from time to time, or a lot.
But yeah, it was probably like maybe sophomore, junior year, I think. So I was like 16, 17 or something like that. That probably sounds about right. I don't have a ton of like memories of the time, mostly because like I think all of my memories about high school are just me playing Magic the Gathering. So I mean, obviously, like I remember like some things like obviously I did like all my music stuff and that kind of thing and and like a little bit of stuff from school, but that was it's hard for me to remember because I was so hyper focused, autistic you could even say, just about playing Magic and things like that, because I was super getting into that, and all my friends are really into it.
The few shows I remember going to, I can't remember. I'm sure there was probably, people there that started shit or whatever, but I think it got squashed pretty quickly. that was the thing about local shows, especially, people knew who they were, and especially in Myrtle Creek, it was a small town. Everybody knew everybody, basically. So it's like, if you were that asshole that started shit at shows, like, you were known. People knew who you were.
No, I remember you were one of the guys that I was talking about earlier, like, one of the mosh crew. Like, I remember at one show in particular, it was in the half shell, and this guy just went into the pit swinging punches to hurt people. And you guys fucking... I won't name names, but... and you might have just been an innocent bystander, surely. But you shoved him over the top of one of the other guys in the mosh crew and just started pummeling this guy. And he got up all pissed off like, how dare you punch me? Well, because, motherfucker, you went around trying to take people's heads off in a mosh pit instead of just having it be an experience. And no, I thought that was fucking great. Dude comes in there trying to pick a fight instead of enjoy the show, and he gets his ass handed to him, and that's how it ought to be.
What was it like hanging out with the members of Mortheo and the people in the Myrtle Creek music scene? I really liked the little towns along Oregon. We used to, I lived in Reno and was in a couple projects there throughout time, and that town has such a rich history in hardcore music, and it's really competitive, so there's a lot of a different dynamic there. But when you'd come out to the, these smaller rural towns in Oregon and in other states as well, I mean, those kids are really thirsty for music, so you always felt more appreciated when you'd play shows in those smaller towns, because no one else ever bothers to stop by and do stuff. So it's always such a great circuit to go to hit up the small towns and see how, visceral the reaction is, because no one bothers to stop by, so when stuff comes in, people truly listen to you.
How do you think Mortheo would have gone over in Klamath Falls?
Probably about the same as Myrtle Creek. Klamath Falls it's a little bit bigger town than Myrtle Creek, but as far as the music scene, I would say Myrtle Creek probably had a better music scene than Klamath Falls did. Back in those days, there wasn't internet to get exposure, and if you wanted to start concerts, you had to know 5 or 6 other bands. The problem in Klamath Falls is everybody hated each other's band, so trying to get the other bands together to do a concert never happened because they were too busy trying to outdo each other. So the music scene was hard here unless you were able to do a talent show or a battle of the bands or rent out like a Grange Hall with other bands to do a concert. You really weren't getting exposure going anywhere with it.
A lot of us loved you. I mean, Wally Beamer, us, Last Saturday, Gene loved you guys. Do you know the Apex out of Portland loved you guys? Drag Handle, they loved you guys. There was a bunch of bands who weren't necessarily local who we would be like, hey, come out, we're throwing a show, because we used to throw shows. So you guys did too. We all did. That's what we did. Once we started getting some kind of internet backing, and you gotta remember, dude, let's take this into context. When we started playing, there was no iPod. You know what I'm saying? It was mp3.com was and it would take you yeah, you want a 311 song? See you tomorrow. It'd be all night and all day for a 3-minute song. So that's kind of the time frame that we're basing this off of. But all of that whole heavier kind of more melodic grunge or speed metal, that crew, they loved you guys. The guys who, we would be hey, come on down, there's a show, and they'd actually come down. So a lot of people outside of our town loved you guys. A lot of people who we knew didn't like you very much.
Yeah, that is an important thing to note, is that internet was brand new in the area. it wasn't what it is today. It was a lot of word of mouth and just getting out and playing shows and hoping that, you know, people would just decide to come out.
All I know about Mortheo is it's not my fault. It never was. And it was a lot of fun having you guys play in my backyard.
No. It is Marcy's fault. It's always going to be Marcy's fault. Always has been Marcy's fault. When those people wouldn't print our covers, that was Marcy's fault. When we were not allowed to play at certain venues, that was Marcy's fault. When we didn't make $1 million, that was Marcy's fault. Let's see, I broke many a guitar string. That was Marcy's fault. Splintered drumsticks everywhere. Marcy's fault. All of it. Let's see. I couldn't even begin to list the amount of record labels that we did not get signed with that are Marcy's fault.
That was another person who had support for us all the time.
Yeah, she liked Mortheo and she didn't, I think.
She liked us more than she liked the music.
She liked you.
Well, and the idea of like people who had just shown support like that. That was, again, the first time I'd ever felt like a rock star ever, where, you know, I'm this nerdy ginger kid and I'm realizing that, oh my god, there are girls who are like me because I'm on the stage. Finding out that they actually like me for more reasons than that, but I was too stupid and didn't realize at the time.
But they noticed you.
But they noticed. That was the thing where I actually felt like I could be noticed. That pulled me out of so much negativity of my own self, like the first time of being able to like play a show and be on stage and realize that people like this music. Like,
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, those were both really good. Like, I think we talked about it a time or two, but yeah, that junior high concert, like, other bands came out of that. Like, and people, I think, you know, we played that, you know, fairly early on in the Mortheo days, and then those people came up into the high school with us, and so those people, like, had a positive outlook on local shows. And, like, as far as, you know, when they were junior high kids, I think a lot of it was just, hey, these guys actually, you know, cared to give a shit about us. And it was like, I remember at the time, it was kind of like, well, okay, we could just be too good for it and have our noses in the air. But, you know, after thinking about that, like, that's not who we were. Like, we didn't feel like we were too good for anybody. We didn't feel like, oh, we're too established. We're too, you know, it would ruin our credibility to go lower ourselves to that. Fuck that. No, so that's happened to me a few times in my life where it's like, well, you know, people are going to think some kind of way about this or whatever, but I honestly don't give a shit. Like, if we're going to come from a position of being on the fringes, then we don't get to say that other people are lesser than. And then, yes, the recording was also a really fun experience. I think it was a good introduction just to the recording process. We've mentioned before, you know, that was not Sandy's cup of tea, the guy that recorded us, but just going through the process of being recorded at all. And I definitely have learned over the years from different kinds of recording, like, short breakdown is, there's two schools of thought. One school of thought is we plug everybody in, we get the best take we can, and we make adjustments afterwards if somebody made a misstep. Or they're going to record things individually. We're going to do drums first, then we're going to do bass and guitars, then we're going to do vocals, but we're going to do that drum track first, and everybody's going to record separately to a metronome. I'm odd in the way that I prefer the first method. It drives people nuts. They're like, no, they want it to be just right and to that metronome, and that's the way it's done. And I've just always had better experiences with everybody plugs in and plays. You keep that energy. I think that's what it is to me, is that song still has the energy to it, and I think it kind of just pulls the feeling out of it a little bit. I record both ways, and they're both good in their own ways, but if I have my preference, I'm gonna play it live and make adjustments. Again, like, I understand why it's hard to pick a favorite. The shows that we would play with just any of the bands, like I'm thinking Never Better right now, but I think that was just because of like big finales we do where like both bands got together. But honestly, just getting to hang out with the people and throw a show and have other people that were in the mix with you while you were doing it. And even as far as people who were regulars that would come to the shows, like, it was nice to have the support and just be aware that, you know, you weren't the only one who came for this, like, and you weren't the only one who wanted it to be something good. And I remember we had a kind of a mosh crew that would show up to a lot of them, and I honestly don't give a shit about moshing, but back then, you know, that was the thing. And I remember just when those guys would show up, like, feeling like, okay, this is going to be a good show. The crowd's going to have some energy, even if it just centers from them and builds out. And that's huge. Like, if you're a person out there that's just a listener, like, you don't play music but you support it, your energy that you put out makes a huge difference. Like, if you are putting out high energy at a performance, you're gonna get more energy back, and it's just gonna trade back and forth and build and build and build. And those nights that happens, it's incredible. Like, people that weren't there will be like, yeah, you went and saw some local band, so what? But honestly, I've seen better energy at local shows than I have at, you know, big touring, you know, national acts sometimes, just because I don't know how to describe it necessarily, but I don't know. I think the nationals are such a big scale that it's just a mass of people. So while I have seen, you know, like, huge crowds interact with these big bands, and, you know, that aspect is there, it's different when they're 2 feet from you and you're on the floor with them instead of on a stage, or, you know, like, you can see the individual faces out there. Makes it a little different.
It was a long time ago and I was young, but I distinctly remember moving all the furniture in my living room against the walls to make a big open space in the middle, and the drum kit being in the corner. So my introduction to Mortheo was Brian and his death growls rattling the floorboards right in my house. Although my ears were ringing by the end of the night, it was some of the greatest memories I had in my teen years. I was never a social butterfly, not like my sister Marcy, but I always felt included. I always felt like part of the party and part of the show.
Do you think people that went to Marcy parties were happy to see Mortheo, or not so much?
Half of them were, the other half, I don't think they cared. They just wanted to get drunk. I'm gonna be honest. I had a bunch of people that come to my parties. I'm like, I don't want to hang out with you. Why are you okay?
I mean, when I came to your first party, I wasn't even invited, so.
Yeah, but you're okay. I don't know what these cheerleaders are doing at my house.
Do I think most people that attended Marcy's parties had fun? Yeah, they kept coming back. The death growls in my living room were not an isolated incident. I never bothered to count them all, but it was quite a lot all through high school. So yeah, they kept coming back as long as Mortheo kept bringing sound.
I remember we almost considered not doing the show at the junior high when we were in high school, and that made a huge impact. Like, once those kids were at the high school, they remembered us.
They remember it. Well, that was where some of those the cash refund kids came from.
Yeah.
Because we had actually played that, and they lost their mind. That might still be, to this day, the most positive reaction Mortheo ever got to a show.
Yeah.
We felt like rock stars leaving there.
Brandon Chapman, too. That was where he was like, no, I can do this.
And now look at it.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
throwing shows all the time.
Yeah. That's very, very true. He was at all the Rivera Fests that we played in Myrtle Creek.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I pretty much just record nowadays because I like playing live, but it is a hassle to get that stuff put together. I don't think people realize how much.
No, it's always a hassle to do that. I like the idea about doing recording live and all that stuff, or recording, but playing live. It's I've become more picky when it comes to playing live, just to make sure that it's worth the time, and like, is there going to be like a PA there?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Do you remember sitting in on guitar for a couple practices with Mortheo?
I do. That was fun.
Did you think it was strange for a small town like Myrtle Creek to even have a hard or a rock metal band locally? And that question is simple as no. I mean, it's Myrtle Creek. It's a small town filled with assholes, so the only two kinds of music they'll probably produce is country and hard rock. And, you asshole, you created hard rock.
Don't forget about rap. No, rap wasn't much of a thing in Myrtle Creek. I think a couple people tried it and probably were not that successful. I didn't really hear too much about it. I do remember a guy who had like a demo tape or something like that and just wasn't really getting anywhere with it. I wouldn't know how to direct somebody on that necessarily, but yeah, it just never took off, and I think a lot of it was just the person in question didn't have the will to really push himself to hit the level that he would have needed to been to get that attention. But no, there's plenty of assholes that love rap music, so don't forget about rap.
I like having hard rock in the community. I think Douglas County can use it. We got a lot of country and a lot of classic rock, and classic rock cover bands and the country cover bands is what you always see at the festivals and whatnot. So having a little bit of hard rock and heavy metal ain't gonna hurt anybody.
See, back in the day, I wasn't really exposed to a lot of music, and life was just kind of dull. And then all of a sudden this comes around, and I'm just like, that is the coolest thing ever. So that's what kind of sticks out in my head.
I remember you playing at the Elks Lodge one day. It was a Friday.
Well, I think that was cool too, is that I think because of the fact that we both had very similar goals and both similar and different personalities, it allowed for more people to try and kind of like, yeah, come over, I'll check out your group. I don't know how many people like me more than you, like you're saying, but I don't feel like we had a lot of people in that school.
All of them. Pick a name.
It's funny too. I was gonna say because he had the pure white contacts, and I think about all the time I've played in Toxic Zombie with pure white contacts.
Yeah.
It was my understanding when we were growing up. I did ask you at one point, Brian, what's with some of the songs? Anything going on? And his response to me at the time, from what I remember, was these are me working it out in my head, basically. It's putting it out there so these thoughts aren't still rattling around in his head. I dig that. That's a good way to get it out.
Yeah, I do remember having those conversations with you guys, and it was almost like an intervention. Like, because I remember you guys took a bunch of my handwritten lyrics and typed them up. And some of it I think you guys had kind of skimmed over and were like, oh yeah, that's cool. But when you sat there with it with no music and we weren't working on it, I think you guys became a little bit concerned. And no, that shit was not okay. I will tell you that shit was not okay at all. But it gave me a voice, it let me express it, and that did make a huge difference. Hard to say. I mean, I can't tell what would have happened if I hadn't have had that. It's possible that protected me. I think it's more likely than not that having that ability protected me. So I'm glad that you guys stuck with me. I know you were concerned. And it did feel good, like, even though it was like almost like a drug intervention. it was good to know that somebody gave a shit enough to, at least ask about it. But yeah, I mean, that's honestly, when I'm going back over this Mortheo stuff, there's a lot of stuff that I'm like, 15, 16-year-old me knew some shit that damn near 40-year-old me forgot. And it's good to kind of remember that. And I'm hoping that I will have more of an outlet for music going forward. Because shit's still there, man. Shit's still there.
In general, I think adolescents like to suppress who they are and the need to fit in more. And I think everybody does that to an extent, especially through teenage years. But I didn't feel like you were trying to do that, to try to fit in. I felt like it was just your natural, and you were confident in it. And I think confidence is huge. And I notice people who are confident, I think, probably more than anything.
God, I wish I could remember the song. It had lyrics like where you were counting and saying "can't calm down."
Oh, Back from 10. Yeah.
Back from 10, and you guys were playing like a show outside at the high school, and during the aggressive parts of that song, I remember you at one point just running around the school ground screaming those lyrics, and really getting into the vibe of the song. And you always came to play at those things. I always remember you having your hair on point for that and your contacts in and ready to go. And I just have a lot of good memories of gigs around Myrtle Creek, and we would play gigs with Mortheo. You would drum for us and then be the lead singer and for Mortheo and all that. And just the kinship between Mortheo and Never Better that we had, and I think I played mostly when Toby was the drummer, and jam sessions with Toby and all you guys, and just in general, the hangout, were the best memories.
These were kids that I was in school with. So, like, I had heard bands before, you got your bigger bands or whatever, and, they do their stuff. But these kids were doing it in school, so it was one of those, not necessarily a message from a song or whatever, just a message in general as, like, you could do this if you wanted to do this. Granted, it took me quite a few, way longer than, being in high school as a kid, to eventually get into music and start my own band at one point. But yeah, that's the message I got.
Speaking of other people, who is also really super, super into Mortheo, Brad. Yeah. I remember he made his own Mortheo shirt.
No, I made it for him and gave it to him.
Oh! Wow.
We made like 2 Mortheo and 2 Never Better, and I like gave it to people who were just consistently around.
Yeah. Brad was consistently around. He very much loved it. I remember when we asked him to join Paranos as the bassist, and he was really like, I finally get to play it. Like, he was just so stoked because of all the work that we had done.
Yeah.
I mean, he was like, I want to do that too, like you were saying. Like, hey, I could do this too.
Yeah. No, we did that one show with that super weird version of Mortheo that was me and you and Brad and Jesse. You remember that shit? We played one show at the school after we had already graduated.
I do remember that, yeah. Wow.
Yeah, there's a couple of people who like talking about the Mortheo days like it's kind of hard for them because they're like, it's a Brad thing to them.
Paranos thing was a Brad thing for me too. Just the idea of, yeah, he was one of my best friends. One of yours too, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
And it was just like,
he was just right up the street from me.
Yeah, I remember that. And now to think that my mom lives right behind that.
Yeah.
It's so crazy. If that would have been the case in high school, we could have just hopped the fence.
Yeah.
And went to practice.
Right.
There was a time where like the whole like tribe of us were like, we were still living there with your grandparents. It's like, we're just gonna hop the fence and go hang out with them anyway. Mm-hmm. That was.
No, there was a few times it was that Brad came over and then
Kristen.
I mean, she'd be over there too, but like to play it would be like Brad and then Randy.
Yeah.
And then
Cody.
Doofer.
Yeah, Doofer. Cody. There's a couple other ones. I just remember like the idea of like we would start to practice and then we'd end up having like a little mini show where people would show up at your house.
Yeah, people would just come by.
Yeah. No, I think that like all those left-handed mailbox bashers guys, the cash refund guys, they all like they were freshmen when we were like juniors, seniors playing music, and they loved that idea, like seeing that and like we're gonna do it too. And it felt really good because they would constantly be like, we used to love watching these guys and make us feel old in high school.
Well, that's like that. Those were the guys I was going to mention. Like they came later on, but that was another group that I felt like was pretty supportive, like back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
Cash refund for sure. A lot of times, if they were setting up a show, we were there. If we were setting up a show, they were there.
Yep. Brian McCurry.
Yeah.
And Cody Bush.
Yep.
Yeah, they were some of my favorite people.
But I do remember being squirrel-like and running all over the place. And everybody was always sitting on stage. It seemed, actually, that's kind of perplexing if you think about it. Everybody always sat on stage, and there you are just a couple months later just playing on it all the time. Like it just belonged to you in the first place. I mean, you were a king, always in the middle pretty much. And everybody else just sitting around you. You ever notice that?
Not really. I remember Widget had some wild times at a couple of those shows, like just as is with everything else, just random shit would happen to that guy. You started hearing this darker sound in Exit 103 for just a minute, and then the originals were just like, no, we don't want that. And those guys kind of split off and started building their other bands that had several different names.
And then like Pete was in that, or Pete Bosch.
Yeah.
I remember thinking like, man, the difficulties you must have had being a black kid in Myrtle Creek in the fucking early 2000s. Jesus.
See, I don't know, like, he never seemed like it was. Like, when I talked to him about stuff like that, like, I remember one show, actually, the Preservatives were covering a rap song, and Aaron Pruner was like, I can't be saying the N-word. Like, I can't do that. And Pete's just like, I don't give a shit.
Yeah, Pete was one of the coolest. He was such a damn good drummer, too.
Yeah.
Damn, that kid could play drums. But, like, yeah, I mean, I'm not talking about, like, our stuff. I'm not talking about in school. I'm talking about, like, going shopping. Going and seeing some of the stuff that I remember, like, that I remember as a kid Like in high school, it's like, oh yeah, that just some of the horrible racist shit that was like, oh yeah, it's just part of it, and then finding out later, like, oh my god, that's what that means. Holy shit. There's a lot of that, Little Creek.
I don't know. Well, and I'm finding out that I was kind of disillusioned about things. Like I thought there was a few old fuckers that were gonna die off that still held on to that kind of shit, and like everybody else just kind of stopped caring, and so that's how it was gonna die out. But then come to find out, people even younger than us are still like that, and I'm like,
yeah,
really? This day and age,
Blows my
you
mind.
still believe that bullshit? Like,
Blows my mind.
but I didn't feel like, at least I didn't notice. It wasn't like me and Pete hung out all the time or anything.
Sure.
But I never noticed anybody disrespecting him.
Yeah, I also never noticed
And
anybody
I
disrespecting
don't
him.
think that the majority of people around would have tolerated it if he had that.
No, and I think that was one of the benefits of Pete being in the band and doing what he did. So many people had his back.
Yeah.
Which is really fucking cool. But and he was another one too that was like, he loved Mortheo. He loved going and checking it out too. Like, and I remember we played that one show out by the flagpole. I don't know if that's junior or senior year, and they were playing too, and they would set up across from us. Remember? And Pete was by the drums, and he's like rocking out like next to me. Hell yeah! Like, yeah, that was good times as well. I forgot about that performance until right now. See, this is why it's a good idea to have this conversation. Right by the flagpole.
Yep.
I remember Chantel giving us the worst look. They were in full like SU cheerleader outfits.
Oh, I never thought they allowed us around that.
Oh yeah, you don't remember that? That was like, because it was like a school pride thing.
Oh, I just remember we got in on like the spring break one, like the one before spring break.
Oh, that's
like
what it was.
Everybody
Right,
got
spring
to
break,
play.
Yeah.
We never were allowed to play assemblies.
No, never to play assemblies. Never to play assemblies.
What else were we forbidden to do?
A handful of things. No dances. We never played dances.
Yeah. Except for oddly enough at the junior high, but that's probably because they didn't know any better.
No, and that was I would say, I don't know if you have a favorite Mortheo show, but that might have been my favorite Mortheo show.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
That was
the first time I ever felt like a
They
rock
didn't even
star.
play, and they went wild.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Just showed up with instruments. They're like, "Oh my god, people have instruments!"
Yep. I love that.
I remember having to get the fuck out of there too because a bunch of girls mobbed me, and I was like, "You
Yeah.
are too young,
Yes.
and we will never be allowed to do this again."
Yes, absolutely. They will put our faces as like warnings, wanted.
Sorry about that. I appreciate the attention, but you need to stop.
True or false? We're too old for moshing now. Yeah, I don't feel like breaking any bones or getting bruised up. I mean, through being pushed, kicked, shoved, etc.
I didn't really like moshing when I was a young dude, and I for damn sure wouldn't do it now. Now that I'm older and thinking about it more, there's a whole shitload of fucking bloodborne pathogen issues to worry about there. And also just as far as the good of the show goes, like a lot of times, yeah, it's great, it's high energy, and especially back in those days, like that was kind of a sign that you were doing good. Like if you're in a metal band, a hard rock band, like if people weren't moshing, you probably weren't that great. It was just kind of the assumption. But looking backwards on it, I'm like, fuck all that. Like people who wanted to be up front felt uncomfortable being up front because all this shit was going on. It was fun. I think it was fun for some people, and I'm glad that they got to have their fun. But like in more recent history, if I'm playing a show and people are gonna mosh, I'm like, very careful to let them know, like, keep to yourselves, don't drag people in that don't want to be in, and don't push people out of their space because you want to goof around. Like, it's cool. It's fun, it's high energy. I'm too fucking old for that shit. I was too old for that shit when I was 16 years old. But mostly it's just a headspace of, like, not ruining other people's good time. If people are there to mosh, then fucking yeah, go for it. But if people are just there having a good time and all of a sudden the pit breaks out and people are getting trampled, like, no. Most people who do mosh have better etiquette than that now. But back when it was new, and back in our little tiny town where people didn't have experiences with that sort of thing, there were some people who really didn't know how to have etiquette about it. And that was another thing about that, you know, crew of people who would show up for the Mortheo shows, is a lot of times they would very unapologetically teach people those lessons, and that made me even happier that they were there.
What made me come to local shows? It was just a reason to get out of the house back then, especially in Myrtle Creek, a small town that way. Hang out with your friends, you'd be able to listen to good music or whatever, and just, yeah, it was definitely something to do in a town where there wasn't a lot to do.
My favorite memory of Mortheo. There's a lot. That's a really hard one, actually. There's a lot of really good memories. A middle school show was probably a good example of that, to be honest. But recording and not knowing yet at the time, like, how not up to par the recording would be after all the years I've done now of audio engineering. I'm like, I can do better than this in a day. But at the time I was like, this is the greatest. Oh my God. Like, losing my mind, like, on top of the world that now we're immortal. We have music that will always exist beyond us. So I think it was that. The combination of those two, that concert, the middle school concert where we're rock stars for the first time and I'm signing autographs for the first time, and recording the album for the first time.
And yeah, like I said earlier, those shows with Never Better were a lot of my favorites. I think part of it might have just been simply I got to play twice and I got to do two different parts. Like, it was a different part in either band.
I don't remember shit. You know how much weed I've smoked since then? You know how long it's been?
Nobody knows
like
that.
20 years.
Nobody knows that. Fucking Pentagon doesn't got a calculator that goes that high.
Taking another person's question, somebody wanted to know, what is the best method to keep a drum set from sliding all over the place without having a carpet? And this is mostly a joke at the fact that we oftentimes just didn't have access to a big slab of carpet, and we had to make do. I remember a lot of it was just trying to put the stands next to each other in such a way that they wouldn't move. A lot of times we'd try to brace it with amps, but our amps weren't terribly big, so a lot of it would just come down to, if we can find something heavy to stick in the way of the bass drum in particular, we'll keep these things from running away from us. But also there would just be times where you'd hope somebody else in the band would shove your drums back to you, or you would have to, play one-handed for a second and drag your stuff back to where it should be. Oh, that was actually a question that somebody brought up, because I was telling people to ask me questions, and they're like, oh, remind me, what's the best way to keep a drum set still when you have no carpet?
Yeah! Oh my God! I remember that. We used to do that at the mill site where I'm like basically going back and forth across the stage because my drums keep sliding. That green drum set that you had and my red one.
Yeah. I mean, we'd try to brace amps up against it and crap like that as much as we could.
Yeah. Well, I also played a lot heavier.
Get a carpet.
Yeah, now thinking about the difference of how I have mine set up now, and like everything's actually off the way that it should be. versus before. Just like that green drum set we take everywhere. That yellow blanket inside of it.
Yep.
Do you think you'd have believed at that time that your future self would later work with members of both Mortheo and Cash Refund when another freak accident came into the picture?
No. Had no idea. Fucking another freak accident sprouted out of fucking death of a friend. Alright?
Alright, so that was part 2 of Small Town Loud Music with Mortheo again with security. I want to thank everybody again for taking the time to answer the questions that I had for you guys about this song. And I hope to see everybody next time for episode 3, and that will be Mortheo again with Lavender.